And here we go, everybody. Thank you for being here. Brian O'Shea is our guest today. He's an intelligence analyst, private investigator, COO of Centurion Intelligence Partners. We're going to talk to him a little bit about various topics. We need to catch up with him once in a while. We're also going to welcome Justin Goodman in after a little bit to talk. He has a social group called White Coat Waste, and amongst other things, he was going to talk about. I'm sorry, I'm just rushing in here. I was over at your mom's house and had to find my way in. Oh yeah, the new director of the NIH and some concerns about what's going on there, and I want to hear his thoughts. So we also will be watching you guys on the restream and of course over on the Rumble Rants. So let's get right to it. If you're trying to figure our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. Thanksgiving is almost here, which means it's time for the best Genucel sale of the year. Just in time for the holidays, save over 60% off both of our personally tailored Genucel skincare packages at Genucel.com/Drew, so you can look your very best at all of your Thanksgiving gatherings. Look 10, 15, 20 years younger, guaranteed, with the best natural skincare anywhere. Take advantage of Genucel's best sale of the year and say goodbye to fine lines, crow's feet, puffiness, and dark spots. The Genucel experience is like no other, but don't take my word for it. You will look and feel your absolute best or your money back, no questions asked. So for results in 12 hours or less, Genucel's immediate effects is included for free. Plus, if you go to Genucel.com/Drew now, you'll get a free upgrade to priority shipping. That is Genucel.com/Drew, Genucel.com/Drew. Welcome back, everybody. As I said, Brian O'Shea in here in just a moment. We're going to talk a little bit about violent mobs and how they get activated. He's got some thoughts about that. As I said, Brian, of course, is an intelligence analyst. And then we're going to talk to from White Coat Waste Project. Let me get our guest name. Give me a second here. As I said, I'm a little bit addled because of the circumstance of today. I wasn't even late, just the weather here is terrible, and I had to rush across town to get to the studio, and I was over at your mom's house. Justin Goodman is our guest, and we're going to talk a little bit about National Institute of Health and the leadership there, as well as some of his concerns about, as usual, the coziness between regulators and the pharmaceutical industry. So let's bring in our friend Brian O'Shea. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So, when I was in college, we were raising a big stink about the fact that the college was invested in South Africa during the times of apartheid. And we actually took over our administration building, and it became like a few seconds of national news. But I bring it up for this reason. I went to the, whatever it was, rally, to see what was going on. And I was blown away that at this rally that had started maybe 6 hours before, it had some news and press associated with it. It was 1978 or something. And there were communist organizations, socialist organizations, Marxist organizations, adults there. Like, we were college kids, but there were all these adults passing out flyers and pamphlets, and there were hundreds of people there that were not associated with the college or even with this particular concern we had with apartheid. How did they find out about it even? So where does this happen that mobs get activated? What is the, and these days, of course, with social media, the information distribution must be that much more efficient. How does this happen?
Well, that's a great question. I can't really speak for your rally, but of late we've seen some I would imagine it was through your chambers of commerce and local unions probably helped get that organized. Very, very actually, the way
Wait a
you
minute.
describe it
Because
reminds me.
wait. It was just students spontaneously complaining about the college being invested in South Africa. It was just divest South Africa because we're objecting to apartheid. It was an unplanned, spontaneous event,
Mhm.
and suddenly a bunch of communist information distributors showed up. I'll never forget it. I was like, where did these guys come from? They were not from New England. We were in New England at the time.
Well, I'm from New England, and
Isn't that
that
weird?
blows my mind to know that there were, yes, definitely. So back then, I'm not really sure what the network was. In today's world, it's a
Yeah,
lot easier. And so we all probably
I bet.
saw how quickly these, ceasefire, Gaza, free Palestine just popped up. But if you really look at the pattern of the pre-made signs, the pre-made T-shirts, that's what blows a lot of people away. Like, how do they do that? Well, in the course of researching the Ruth sent us SCOTUS 6 protest when Roe v. Wade was kicked down to the states about a year ago, I discovered several of these networks. They're like organization platforms. And the two that come to mind were actionnetwork.org and opencollective.com. So essentially, what happens is for $10 a month up to $100 a month, you can get a membership. You can load up a whole bunch of contacts. You can load up your patterns for t shirts, your prototypes. And then you can actually organize from anywhere in the world a protest however you want it, including linking in with Uber rides and making sure your designs get to the local print shop so people can pick up their signs and their t-shirts
Huh.
and their banners. And you can even DoorDash your protesters from the same platform.
What I'm a little confused. You mean, is this just a sort of a platform, or is it a motivated organization that has a point of view?
It's definitely a motivated organization that has a point of view. So, and speaking
Okay,
for Action Network, because when I
got it.
filled out an application for a protest I don't have. I just wanted to see how it worked. One of the questions on the application is, "Are you a progressive organization?" And that really struck me.
Mm. How did people find out about this, do you think?
That's a really that's a really good question. That one I don't know. They don't really do a lot of advertising. They're easy to find, but you will find the way I found them was I just followed the donation links. And those will lead you to things like Action Network, like Open Collective, when you get an email back from these, because a lot of the fundraising is done through there. And you can have multiple actions just as one person. You could be running 10 protests on different topics simultaneously. And all that money comes right into you, right into your organization, because they also act as a fiscal sponsor if you're not an actual nonprofit.
And where did this start? Where did they come from? Well, what is their origin story?
Well, the origin story for Action Network, it looks like it is, it is backed by the. It's a nonprofit that's based in Washington D.C. D.C. on L Street. It's been around probably for just under 10 years, and I think it looks like it did start as a legitimate. We just want to help people get organized type tool. And I'm not saying that that's not still their intent. What I will say though is they're making a lot of money on these type of protests, and so are the vendors that they're partnered with. So in their
Mm.
990, which is still online, they do state that a progressive organization that helps you know different causes or something like that enhance their ability to let their voices be heard. Um,
Mm.
As far as how they started, they seem like they started the same way a lot of the tech companies started. Like, how can we take an existing thing and optimize it and amplify it and make money off of it? So without the protests, they wouldn't be making any money. So their lifeblood, if you will, is you have to have conflict in this type of industry to make any money.
Is it, strictly speaking, a money-making operation, or is there a philosophical, obviously there's an orientation, but was it a political organization to begin with, and now, like many organizations, just starts focusing on making money also?
Well, it was a nonprofit, so yeah, I mean, it was, in DC, so yes, it was for, all intents and purposes, a political action type organization. But I think, look, I'm skeptical. I'm from the intelligence world. I've been a white collar crime investigator. I've never seen anything grow so big that was not done for money. And if they were
Yeah,
just for money, I mean, if they were just for a cause, I don't think they would be charging kind of like a in-app purchase type model where it's constantly escalating. If you want this, then you pay a little more, you pay a little more. And it's a
got
volume
it.
business. The more
Yeah.
protests, more they make.
So is this surprising to you? I mean, to me, it's like sort of stunning. Or is there a long history of this kind of thing? Have they've had other, maybe they haven't had this form, but there's been other, I mean, like I described back in New England in 1978, were there other, before it was people on the phones or something. Is this kind of thing always
Mhm.
gone on?
Not to my, I mean, not beyond the last 10 years. Was it surprising to me? Yes, when I first discovered it, investigating the Ruth sent us rallies, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I was a little blown away. But what really blew me away was um, the fact that anyone can set up a protest anywhere in the world for $10 to $100 a month, including pushing out the media, pushing out the social media. Oh, and when I broke this story with Jim Hoft at Gateway Pundit, I also had let him know that you also get a whole database of media contacts at a certain level. And that would explain how the coverage is also synced. So, but for that one, what really blew me away was there were only three people that I could find that were at the core of all of those Roe v. Wade related protests. Three people, and running it from three different states.
Hmm. Are these people active in other areas as well?
Oh yes, one of them, and this was widely reported as four people. One of them turns out to be a fake person whose face is actually some English heartthrob daytime television guy. Um, so yeah, well, so
Ugh.
one of the people in those protests, one of those organizers, a very wealthy tech, former tech executive, and she seems to be at the core of it. She also created this fictitious person named Sam Spiegel, and the other one, there was another organizer named Snowden Bishop. She's very active. She is on Spaces all the time. We actually follow each other for some reason. And the last time I saw her space, they were talking about Ukraine and why it's important that we maintain our presence there. And so I haven't really looked that deeply beyond that case. That was a contracted case. So, but I do want to drill back into it and see what they're all up to now to see if it follows a certain pattern. But what I did notice is they never did take down any of their collection platforms on Open Collective, and it's called Collectives. On Action Network, it's called Actions.
I'm surprised the press isn't digging into this. I mean, isn't this sort of a prime story, so to speak, of intrigue? And wouldn't it be interesting for any sort of even marginally investigative reporter to dig into this a little bit and tell a story? I mean, what is
I
going
mean,
on here? That I feel like this conversation is breaking news, and yet you've
well,
broken the story elsewhere, and still no one seems terribly There's no momentum around it, that's for sure.
I mean, how much time do you have? I mean, we've seen the press's coverage on stuff that would have been page one above the seam 6 years ago, or
Right.
as if it was Donald Trump. I think because all of these organizations all kind of connect to each other. I mean, there's a list of media contacts in both of these platforms that are all legacy media. So I I think for whatever reason they're not covering it, but whatever's going on in journalism right now, that's a whole nother story that goes deep.
I wanna make sure I hear you. Are you saying that they are part of the organizations, and that's why they're not covering it?
No, they're not part of the organizations, but their politics, they are biased. Most of the all
Mhm.
of the legacy media seems to be biased, and whoever is sponsoring them, whoever is buying the ads on, say, the larger legacy media sites, I can imagine that they are saying you're going to cover this certain way, such as, and just so you know, I mean, on Action Network, BLM is one of their featured clients.
Well, I was gonna say, it seems like this sort of thing that, helped, that if BLM wasn't part of this, they did something similar, right? When they developed.
They actually used Action Network to get that organized,
Right,
and one my
right.
question when BLM happened was how'd they get so organized? I mean, it's a command and control dream. If I was back when I was in the military, if we
Yeah.
could get things organized that quickly, that would have been great.
So why doesn't the right or the center, the independents, do something similar?
That is a great
Or do they?
question. That's what I've been, or even use the existing one. I mean, I hate to, feed any money into something like that, but I always say, use the enemy's sword if they drop it. And it is available to anyone. And I don't think they care really. You could just check it. Yeah, I'm progressive. I mean, what's that mean? It's up to you. But I was saying this myself, like, well, the right or conservatives really need something like this. Otherwise, they're never going to catch up at a minimum just to counter protest.
Has anybody brought, I mean, your wife has a bit of a reach, Naomi. Is she, taking it to anybody, showing it to anybody, getting any traction, interest from anybody?
I can't really speak to that because she's actually so involved with, as you saw in your opener, that she's so involved with the Pfizer documents. There's just, that's she actually has a similar capability on dailycloud.io called communities, but
Mm,
this is that's a donor based operation versus this very very corporate based operation. I know Jim Hoft at the Gateway Pundit has put it out, and the Post Millennial also covered it as well. But I don't think anyone's talked about, except for myself on Jim Hoft's interview, using it. Using it the same way they are, using it the same way to raise money, to organize people, to make sure people vote.
right. It it's all kind of weird and confusing to me that, they have to be aware of it. I mean, who knows? Um, all right. The origin story of this thing again, it feels like something that, Soros would be involved with. Like, it'd be odd if he missed this opportunity, let's put it that way. Are his hands on this?
Yeah, there is a connection to the Tides Foundation, which does have ties to, I believe, either Arabella or Open Society, which are both Soros-backed organizations. And then even ARC is, you know, th- involved there too. I mean, Soros is kind of like Bill Gates. I mean, if we could play the drinking game of 6 degrees to Soros, and we'll find him there. But
Right.
yeah, he's definitely linked to this, and I think on a kind of a darker tone here. What scares me about this is chaos in our cities is a very effective tool in war. So if you are going to do something
Mm,
to an enemy, or that's what you're going to do, a fifth column of chaos, if you will. You can sit there in your cubicle, in whatever enemy cubicle farm there is attack in the US, and just click a few buttons, run your credit card, and you can start protests all over the world if you want to, simultaneously.
Again, I don't understand why other people aren't doing something in the other direction. I don't know. Maybe there's opportunity there. What's that, Susan? What do you mean? Can you hear Susan when she talks?
You're saying the media?
No, I'm asking why people with alternative points of view aren't fighting back in a similar way, and why things that Naomi and I have been talking about for a long time in terms of certain around vaccines and around overreach of government and public health, why people have an organized technique to organize. Why
They
RFK
do.
Jr. doesn't use it? They do use it.
There is a mentality that I came across years ago. I was at the Capitol Hill Club, the conservative one. So there's the left and the right Capitol Hill clubs. I happened to be at the Capitol Hill Club with a member of Parliament, European Parliament named Daniel Hannan, and we were talking about this very thing because Obama had raised a ton of money through nickel and dime donations, and that's when that was something new. And I brought that up. I said, well, we should do that. And there was this donor there who was very nice, but she was, the white pearls like out of a movie. And she said, I would never do something they're doing. And there's that kind of mentality, but there's also awareness of it too. If it's not getting covered, people don't know about it. And you're right. I mean, something like this, for all those entrepreneurs out there, can make someone on the conservative side a lot of money and help balance the scales a little bit.
It's very odd. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about and get an update on what's going on with China. I mean, Susan loses sleep for about 5 days after we talk to you usually. Is there any update on since we last spoke, the World Health Organization has come in with this treaty, so-called, where they essentially want sovereign privilege over all countries and all elected officials in the setting of a new emergency. And this is obviously funded by China. Is there something really sinister going on there, or just misguided?
Oh no, if it's the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, it's sinister. At least it is to us, because they've made it clear. Xi Jinping's made it clear that we are in the way of their global dominance, and they're even a danger to the World Economic Forum. My friends will fight me on that, but China does not want to share the power with anyone. They will pretend to, but eventually they're a nationalist mentality. They want the world to be China, and they want to rule it. So what's going on with that? Yeah, I mean,
when go ahead, finish.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was saying that I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and I actually, Elon Musk got me kind of thinking about it, because he seems very clement towards China. He thinks we should be engaged with them in our business practices, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? Why is he feeling comfortable with them? And so the question that sort of came to mind for me, as it pertains to this very topic that you're presenting, why would they want to destroy their primary market, their primary source of income and sales? I mean, we're it. Why would they want to do that?
Well, they want to do that because they can't control the American people. I mean, to really have the dominance China needs and wants, they need a certain mentality, and they're waiting for that next generation. That's why there's so much neo-Marxist type teaching, as it is involved with the Chinese Communist Party. So why would they do that? You're right. Right now, we are their key market. Right now, we are. But if you see what I'm sure you have, what they're doing with the oil negotiations with Saudi Arabia, the way they were actually building a pipeline with Russia and Ukraine prior to 2018. Yes, with Russia and Ukraine. And the thing is, once they have the dominance over the world, then and they can create a system where they're forcing where the spend goes, just like they do with their own people. So, for instance, that social credit system, if you really look at it, that's that system where if you don't do certain things in society, you can lose points. If you help the old lady across the street, theoretically, you can gain points, and it's tied to your credit and everything. But you also, if you buy something from Amazon or you Google or Baidu, 7 years in Tibet, you will definitely lose points. But if you buy something from Alibaba, you gain points. Um, they're on the digital credits. They're on the digital currency system already, and there's only certain things you can buy. So when you have that kind of dominance, you're feeding the money right back into the system. They don't have that with America right now, and I don't know if they think they ever will. Best to just kind of get rid of at least the American mentality and America as an identity, to really subjugate the people of America, which is it's a tough thing to do because we're in chaos with each other. So it must be a nightmare to try to strategize that one out. And I think that's the goal is, well, I know the goal is by 2049, having that type of global dominance over everything.
That's interesting. I've not ever thought about our conflicted, split system right now and all the extraordinary differences of opinion as our strength against China.
Right. Yeah, it's a strength because there's no groupthink. So,
do you worry about the digital wallets that the EU just put in place or created?
Yeah, I worry about anytime currency or spend is digital because someone controls those servers, and it's certainly not the person with the wallet.
Mm. It's interesting that the thing that they said that bothered me. They're like, "Well, now we got to figure out what goes in that wallet," meaning cards and identity cards and all that and maybe social currency cards. That to me seems like one step towards exactly what China would like.
Well, China has that in China right now, and it's worse because in China the currency actually expires, so you can never gain independence by playing by the rules and saving money or anything. And it can also track you. It could also punish you for voting for the wrong people or hanging out with the wrong people. And it could also keep you from buying anything to ever be independent of the state. And that is the goal of China. And it seems like a lot of our politicians here would love to have that kind of power, very much so.
What do you think that is? I don't understand that delight in wanting to tell other people how to live by American leaders. That just seems weird to me. And it was even weirder. There's people wanting that. I mean, I just saw it writ large in California, where our governor seemed to delight in shutting everything down, and then people welcomed it and then wanted it to keep going. It's just I can't understand that psychology.
No. Look, I think a lot of that first comes from ignorance and just a lack of education in the history of the world. I mean, you can pick up any book on the Cultural Revolution, under Mao, and you see the exact same events over the last 3 years play out almost to the letter. The other one is people don't really understand what real communism is and how horrible it is. They see the kind of fluffy Denmark or, those kind of versions of it. So,
yeah, I we talked to Christine Anderson a couple of days ago, the EU Parliament member that has been fighting against particularly the World Health Organization treaty and whatnot. And that's where our conversation went very quickly. We went to 1790 France. We went to turn of the century Russia. We went to later in the century China. I mean, those historical cycles that recur and are very predictable, and they sort of some parts of it at least play out in a very predictable way. People seem totally unaware of it. Either side, they just or they accuse another side of being evidence of it when they don't even know what the evidence is that suggests it's actually going on. You know what I'm saying? They just seem so
I know what you're saying.
Lost in they just don't seem they understand the history. They haven't studied the history. They don't understand the history, and they just they know it as empty slogans, and they just sort of accuse everybody else of it when they themselves may be the ones doing it.
Yeah, that's classic Marxist tactics. The first one is just to obliterate the history. There are a lot of historians that refer to it as the People's Republic of Amnesia. And most people under a certain age don't even know about Tiananmen Square in China. Here, I was horrified listening to a true crime podcast or just a geopolitical podcast a long time ago. And they someone mentioned 9/11. And this kid who's sounded like, I'm guessing, a graduate at least, he's at least 22, 23. He's like, oh, hey, what is that again? What is 9/11?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I have been obsessed with pre-revolutionary France for about 10 years because I could see this coming in the personality styles that were predominating. I kept saying there was going to be guillotines, and now what people don't understand is if you bring out a guillotine, you go on the guillotine eventually, even though you're the one that brought it out. That is mathematical certainty. But lately, I've found myself reading a lot about Lenin, and I am shocked at how modern, how much of the present moment is represented in the stuff he was doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. And right down to the currency and everything. And not only Lenin, but recently I've been reading a lot by Federalist has a really great journalist named Davida Duffy, and she knows a lot about the Spanish Civil War from the told history, because her people in her family escaped from that, and that is almost exact. But just reading, every time I'm reading 2 books, Fahrenheit 457 and I get the temperature right, and
451.
The history. Thank you. And and then also the anything about the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward. I have to put the books down because it's literally like I'm reading what's happening today.
Oh no. Yeah, I have that exact same experience. I'm like, it upsets me too much. I can't read it. Well, listen, a little breaker. Brian, I want to bring you back after the commercials or after we hear from our sponsors. And I want to talk a little bit about the border before I bring Justin in. But I want to hear what your thoughts are about that, what our risks are with that. Any of us can just quickly imagine what we might be getting into here, but I'm curious what you think. So Brian O'Shea is with us. Brian, do you want to send people anywhere to find you, just your Twitter handle, or where would you like people to go?
Well, I'd like them to go to actually dailyclout.io and just search under Mostly Peaceful or Unrestricted Invasion to find our video column.
Okay. Also, you can follow him on X at, let me see if I get it right. It's Brian O'Shea, SheaSpi. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So I said we're going to hear from the people that support us. Listen carefully.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Yes, we appreciate them very, very much, and we use them on a regular basis, and we mean what we're saying in these little promotions. So we appreciate you all paying attention. And we'll be back with a little more Brian and then Justin when we return.
Thank you.
If you're trying to figure out the right present for someone, you will not go wrong with gifting the most comfortable sheets, clothing, and accessories that your friends and family have ever felt. Of course, I'm talking about Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth has the softest and most comfortable sheets, blankets, towels, PJs, joggers, and more, guaranteed. Susan and I love them. In fact, we still have Cozy Earth sheets on our bed. I slept in them last night. I was thinking of how great they were. And look at this. I'm wearing one of their super comfortable t-shirts right now. I just can't get enough of Cozy Earth. Their sheets are durable, machine washable, and come with a 10-year warranty against defects. So no surprise that Cozy Earth's brand has been featured on Oprah's Favorite Things for 5 years in a row. Whether it's their luxury pajamas, super soft bedding, loungewear, or plush bath towels, you will love shopping and gift giving at Cozy Earth. Here's my gift to you this holiday season. Go to CozyEarth.com, enter code DREW to save 40%. That's CozyEarth.com with code DREW. CozyEarth.com, code DREW, save 40%. These products have transformed my life and Susan's and saved our marriage. Discover the key to oral hygiene, regardless of your current daily dental routine. Whether you diligently brush and floss multiple times a day, or you struggle, you got bleeding gums, bad breath, plaque buildup, this revelation is for both of you. Surprisingly, over 350,000 Americans experience health issues that may be connected to their toothbrush or even caused by it, ranging from heart or blood sugar problems, forgetfulness, digestive difficulties, immune issues, all related to oral hygiene. Scientific studies have shown that a simple switch of your toothbrush can lead to a healthier teeth and potentially save your marriage. Yes, save your marriage. Our study, we did a personal study. My wife, Susan, hates the sound of the sonic toothbrushes, but introducing the Real White sonic toothbrush, of course, also their hydroxyapatite dirty mouth mineral toothpaste by Primal Life Organics, these products have transformed my life and Susan's and saved our marriage. It's much quieter. It's a very powerful toothbrush, but it is quiet and it saved our marriage. So, the Real White Sonic toothbrush from Primal Life Organics stands out among all other electric toothbrushes I've tried. It effectively eliminates plaque, harmful bacteria, promotes gum health. Get yours and enjoy 60% off at naturaltoothbrush.com/DREW. I think everyone knows the next medical crisis could be just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of another pandemic or something much more routine like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. We have their physicians on like Dr. McCullough frequently. The Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy.
It's a safety net. It's an insurance policy
absolutely.
That you hope you're not going to
100%.
need, but if you need it, you sure as heck are going to wish you had it if you need it.
Be ready for anything. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. The medical emergency kit provides a guidebook to aid in the safe use of all these life-saving medications. From anthrax to tick bites to COVID-19, the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit is exactly what you need to have on hand to be prepared. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next. Go to drdrew.com/TWC. That is drdrew.com/TWC to get 10% off today. Just click on that link. Yeah, the TWC is going to help me with my initiative to try to put more control of healthcare in the hands of patients. I really, there's so many things that could be directly in your hands where you don't have to go to the hospital, the urgent care, even contact a doctor. There's ways to do this. There's a lot of things that can be done more efficiently. I've been saying for a long time that the most effective unit in healthcare is a well-trained caring physician and a motivated, informed patient. The physician part, we've been fighting to break free to represent the patients and to have our autonomy, and we have lost. We must run up the white flag. We have lost, and we must start to put more in the hands of the patients. Find creative ways to do that. And the Wellness Company is committed to help me do that. So,
Can I give a shout out?
Go ahead.
Can I give a shout out?
Go ahead. Yeah, I hear you. You're on.
Okay. Hi, George. So, thank you for want to tell you to go to doctor.
We can't hear Susan, by the way.
Oh, they can't hear you now. They don't hear your mic's off, apparently. Your mic is actually off. Here we go. Give her a second. This is her. Oh, you can see you now, too.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Here I
Nice.
am.
There you go. Okay, good. This is
So,
nice.
we're in a cool studio.
Go right ahead.
I haven't figured out how to use the mic yet. So go to drdrew.com/sponsors to get all the links for the holidays. We have Cyber Friday coming up, or Cyber Monday, and Black Friday, and Christmas around the corner. Get your loved ones a toothbrush.
And there's a bunch of discounts coming with that,
yeah,
right?
use our discounts because they're great gifts, and some health through the Wellness Company.
Yep.
Genucel.
Okay, thank you.
Cozy Earth. Yeah, we love our sponsors and appreciate your support.
Paleo Valley. We got to get the greens thing. People need to get the greens with their bone broth. We're using this stuff all the time. So
Okay.
check out Paleo Valley. Okay, Brian O'Shea is with me. I want to finish with, before we bring Justin Goodman in here, from the whitecoatwaste.org. So talk to me about the border and what your fears are there. I'm imagining this is where I'm going to lose sleep.
I aim to please. Unfortunately, the border is it's a total nightmare. I'm fortunate now to be co-hosting my own show with JJ Carroll, who is a retired 24-year veteran of the southern border. And what I've learned from him
Mm,
and our knowledge of my knowledge of the Middle East, his of the border coming together is it is the stuff of nightmares. So here's what we have. Right now, we have that we know of at least over 25,000 fighting aged men from the People's Republic of China have come through the border. But
mm,
here's how they come through: they come through the Darien Gap, and then they end up in the Bahamas by flight.
mm,
And they're buying boats and landing on our shores. Buying boats. I don't
mm,
think they're escaping from financial prosecution if they're buying boats. And this is a regular thing that
mm,
has largely gone unreported. That's terrifying enough. The other thing that just 2 weeks ago, we reported that two men had been detained at the border. One of them is Abdul Qayyum Musafir. This guy was born in 1963. He's from Afghanistan. He is a senior ISIS, formerly Al Qaeda commander. Like this is, and if
mm.
you were born in 1963, being in those groups, and you're still alive and showing up on our border, you're a pretty tough hombre. He has arrived. He was detained 2 weeks ago, and according to JJ's sources, he has been released into our country. Another
Mm.
guy that came through is a El Haj General Habibullah um, Ahmadzai, who is the former. He used to be basically working directly for President Ghani of Afghanistan, and he has arrived now and was also detained and released. And so, what I was talking about, with JJ and our audience, and it hit me when JJ told me they released these guys. He said, "What do you think this means?" And I said, "Well, I know when there's something bad about to happen on a military level or a paramilitary level, the foot soldiers with the intelligence arrives first, followed by special operators to take down the bridges, take down the communications, or cause chaos. Then in comes like the foot soldiers, the last people to arrive before something big's going to happen. I'm not saying I have any intel that says there is, but the last people to arrive are the generals. And to me, it looks like the
Mm.
generals have arrived."
Is there any chance the government knows about this or is monitoring these guys? And if not, how is that possible?
Well, they have to know about them because the government came and picked them up.
They detain
They
them.
would
Yeah,
definitely
they
know who they
detain
are.
them.
They detain them, and both of these guys are on. One was on Interpol. They're certainly in our databases. But another troubling thing is that after 2012, 2013, it seems like the U.S. intelligence community shifted away from counterterrorism, like just shifted away from it.
Mm.
And that's from multiple people I've talked to and I've heard. So I don't know why that is, but it doesn't bode well for us because it tells me, we may have some enemies within here.
Mm. Somebody floated a theory I wanted to ask you about. It's not specifically related to this topic. It's peripherally related. That he wondered whether the CIA was involved with the Mexican cartels in a sort of Oliver North Contra affair, and in some manner benefiting from what the uh, cartels are doing, including helping monitor these invaders. Is there anything like that, or where they're shunting money to other because of what's going on with the cartels? Are able to shunt money to an ally or something? Is there anything of that nature in your mind going on? Is that a possibility?
I mean, yeah, it's certainly a possibility, and I think you're referring to the Mena case, Mena, Arkansas, where all that started. I'll say this: what I do know is that when the CIA operates in different countries, they have their own thing going. Okay, so for instance, I was
Mm.
asked to consult on a film about that, yeah, uh, uh, about that situation in Arkansas called American Made. And originally, they thought, okay, the CIA is working with the DEA and all this, and they don't. I mean, they kind of always do their own thing, and they have their own directives that they're following. So yeah, it's definitely possible. But again, CIA is not law enforcement; they are an intelligence gathering service, and so
Right.
if they're doing something, it's not going to be to stop people coming in. It's going to be for whatever strategic directive they're operating under.
Right. In other words, it could be not obvious to us what the final benefit is from an intelligence standpoint. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, I think that's a safe way to put it. Just like your example's
Yeah.
great. They they were
Yeah.
parallel to what was going on, but it was opportunistic for them.
Yeah. Well, Brian, I shall toss and turn a bit for a few nights yet. Having spoken with you, I appreciate it. But I'm glad to know you're on the job and raising awareness about these things. Is there anything before I let you go we need to do insofar as the what's I've already forgotten the name of the organization that is the organizing the what is their name? The Action
Oh,
Network.
Action
Is there anything
Network?
we need to do about them, or yeah, is there anything we need to
I would
do
say
about
go
that? Is there we just all just sort of go ahead?
find a way to copy what's working, whether it's the enemy doing it or not, or your enemy, whoever's enemy is their enemy. But if it's working, do it. And even if you have to use that, I
Or
mean,
you
I'm
can use their
certainly
service. Use their service
use
themselves.
their
Use the
service.
very thing they're using,
Exactly.
as you said. Yeah, pick up their if they leave the sword, pick up the sword.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. I mean, when I was in special forces units as a intelligence guy, we trained not only with like NATO weapons, we trained with all the world's weapons, so we knew we could pick one up and use it if we had to. And everyone should have that same
Mm.
mentality. It doesn't make you them to use their weapon, just like it doesn't make Action Network bad. It's the people that use it and how they use it that make it good or bad. I don't know if they're good or bad, but it's a tool, and I would encourage people to use it.
Ryan, Ryan O'Shea, thank you so much. Tell them again where you want them to go.
Again, go to dailyclout.io. And I do want to say,
Mhm.
actually, if I may, uh, today is the
Please.
publication date of Naomi Wolf's new book, and it is called Facing the
Ah.
Beast. I recommend people get it. And the other thing I want to say is her birthday is this weekend, and happy birthday to my lovely, lovely love of my
Hmm.
life.
We say the same thing to her. Happy birthday, Naomi. Tell really quickly what motivate them to read the book? What are they going to find in there?
Oh, well, that book is a collection of essays and everything, all written by Naomi all through the pandemic. Really, really, kind of narrating both the personal and the different stories that kind of motivated her along the way to land in the center of this fight. And really, I think it's a great way for people to get to know her and realize that this woman is operating with a big heart and a pure soul. And hopefully, it inspires people to do whatever they can. I mean, one of her motivations was my son
As
and keeping him safe. So
oh, but that desire she has always operated that way, and that's what I've
she,
learned about her.
yep,
It
always.
you're not listening. It can look like she's taking on different fights, but it's really the same fight across the board. And
It really
I
is.
told her when she was telling me about this book that it's important history. She's documenting important history here, and so it'll be a very important book, I think. So, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cracks
You
it
got it.
cracks me up because he's telling us all this horrible news,
Mhm.
and he does it in such a calm voice.
Mhm. Mhm. I
So
know.
it just makes me so nervous because it's like, are you guys listening? What he's saying?
I know. I know. I
But he
noticed
does it
that
in
too.
such a calm
I
voice
know. He's so matter
that
of
it,
fact about the whole thing. Okay, so here we go. We're going to now bring in Justin Goodman, and Justin has got a few topics I want to get into. Let me get you the particulars on Justin to make sure you go find him. He's at whitecoatwaste.org. On social media, also at whitecoatwaste, and that wasted, of course, WASTE. And welcome Justin Goodman to the program.
Thanks for having me, Drew.
Hi,
Big
Justin.
fan.
Thank you. You bet. Thank you for being here. So I want to start with the National Institute of Health director, which was recently confirmed. What are your concerns there? A lot of people objected to this new person, and tell us what your concerns are.
Yeah, this week, Monica Bertagnoli, the new NIH director, was nominated. 36 no votes, including Bernie Sanders, and 35 Republicans, including our friend Rand Paul, Joni Ernst, other members we work with closely. And listen, she's another animal-abusing big government bureaucrat who's shown really bad judgment and is bound to make the same mistake as her predecessor, Francis Collins, and people like Anthony Fauci. She told Rand Paul in hearing questions that she supports gain-of-function research like the animal experiments in Wuhan that the FBI and the Department of Energy and others believe caused the COVID pandemic. She supports sending more money to labs in China, animal experimentation labs in China, for the kinds of experiments that caused COVID. She supports sending money to animal labs in Russia and other foreign countries. And she's fine with the fact that there's absolutely no oversight of what's going on in these foreign laboratories, in addition to many other troubling positions she has. She's also gotten $200 million in grants from the NIH over the years. So she is totally entrenched, and we can expect more of the same bad policies that likely caused COVID and destroyed global health and the global economy for the last 3 or 4 years.
Do we know what her training is? What her clinical background is? I hope to God there's some, at least.
She's a surgeon and she's a surgeon and an oncologist. Done lots of animal experimentation, which is a big concern of ours. Yeah, she was at Brigham and Women's in Massachusetts for a long time, and then she's been, for about the last year, she's been the director of the National Cancer Institute. So she was at the NIH for less than a year before she was nominated to be the head of the National Institutes of Health. And again, there were a lot of serious concerns raised about her qualifications. Bernie Sanders was concerned about the fact that she wouldn't agree to rein in drug prices. And there were a lot of concerns about, again, these bad policies related to dangerous animal experiments that can cause pandemics both abroad and here on U.S. soil. I mean, there's labs in the United States that are supercharging coronaviruses and other incurable viruses like Ebola and Lassa and Nipah, and things that could wipe us all out, things with 50% fatality rates. And we're bringing them from foreign countries right onto U.S. soil and manipulating them in laboratories. And it's a recipe for disaster, and she supports that.
Well, tell me about that. I understand there's sort of an updated bat story. Is that correct?
Yeah. So our organization was the first one to tie the National Institutes of Health in early 2020 to what was happening in Wuhan, to the Wuhan lab. We documented through the Freedom of Information Act how Anthony Fauci's division at the NIH had secretly shipped tax dollars to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is a virology lab in China run by the Chinese Communist Party, to go into bat caves in southern China, collect these wild bat viruses, bring them back into the laboratory, and then intentionally soup them up and supercharge them so they were more contagious and more virulent to human beings. We obtained emails actually exchanged between the NIH and the experimenters in Wuhan, where they rewrote the definition of gain of function essentially to allow those dangerous experiments to take place, even though the Obama administration had banned them at the time. So they were shipping this money over there. They were breaking federal policy that was preventing those experiments from taking place. Really, they shouldn't have been taking place anywhere, but they rewrote the definition. And then we found the documents that tied COVID's likely patient zero to that laboratory. Ben Hu, COVID's likely patient zero, as documented by the Wall Street Journal and others, was the lead experimenter in that laboratory working with humanized mice and these supercharged bat coronaviruses. Now we found evidence through the Freedom of Information Act showing that a year before the pandemic, a Fauci-run lab in Montana, right here in the United States, was importing coronaviruses from China and then rounded up bats from a decrepit shady roadside zoo in Maryland. This is a true story. They rounded up a dozen Egyptian fruit bats from a zoo in Maryland, brought them to this NIH laboratory in Montana, overseen by Anthony Fauci, and infected them with the coronavirus from the Wuhan lab back in 2018. So the NIH, listen, I think we've just only seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what the NIH has been doing with these dangerous viruses in China and certainly abroad. And they're trying to do more of this right now in the United States. They're trying to set up more of these bat laboratories here in the US and repeat the same mistakes that led us to the point we are now, caused the COVID pandemic. And now they have an NIH director who's perfectly happy to facilitate that and waste more tax money and put American lives and lives around the country at risk. You know what have we killed 25 million people with COVID?
Did she explain why they want to do this? Was there a defense at least of what she had in mind for this research?
Yeah, the company line, which is that manipulating potential pandemic pathogens is going to help prevent another pandemic. But even the head, Gerald Parker from Texas A&M, who's the head of the federal committee that oversees gain-of-function experiments, told the congressional committee last month, a bipartisan committee had a hearing. The select committee on the COVID pandemic had a hearing. They asked him to come and speak about gain-of-function research and oversight. And he said that it's completely unnecessary to do this supercharging of pandemic viruses to prevent a pandemic. There's not a single example in history where gain-of-function experiments have predicted or prevented a pandemic. The only example we have is that it actually caused one in Wuhan.
What has happened to the conversation about? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What has happened to the virus, the coronavirus, or COVID-19 origin story? It seems like it was. It comes in these waves. Is it just now that people have accepted it's from the lab, or I don't quite understand what the state of that argument is or that discussion?
Well, I think there's only one side of the aisle, unfortunately, that really wants accountability. Democrats have resisted it left and right. And remember, Obama was the one who banned gain-of-function experiments because he was worried it could cause a pandemic. Joe Biden was the vice president. And then Donald Trump came and, people lost their minds a little bit. But people like Rand Paul, people like James Comer, people like Kathy McMorris Rodgers, Republicans in Congress, have been pushing for answers to get accountability about COVID origins. And actually next week, Peter Daszak, who is the head of EcoHealth Alliance, this is the New York nonprofit that sent the tax dollars and worked with the Wuhan lab, he will be testifying under oath to a House committee following a subpoena about what he knows about the COVID origin. So, I think there are things we're not going to be able to get answers to because we were shipping money to a lab run by the Chinese Communist Party, and they've destroyed data and disappeared people who knew answers. That's all documented. So I think there's some things we may not ever know, but Peter Daszak probably knows more than anybody about what actually happened in Wuhan.
Do you think he'll be open?
I don't know. It remains to be seen. I think that we really don't know what his involvement in this type of experimentation was. I mean, he had access to lots of different countries around the world where it's difficult to get yourself in and get connections with government agencies. I think there's questions about why the DoD has been funding Peter Daszak's experiments on animals and virus hunting for so long.
Right.
And what his involvement with the intelligence community was. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see, what the committee gets out of him. I also think, there's Anthony Fauci repeatedly committed felonies by testifying under oath to Rand Paul in Congress, saying that the NIH under Fauci did not fund gain-of-function experiments in Wuhan. And the NIH has since explicitly admitted that they funded experiments that supercharged coronaviruses in the Wuhan Institute of Virology in violation of the federal ban that was in place. But Fauci told House committees and Senate committee repeatedly under oath that he didn't. Now, Rand Paul has referred him to the DOJ for prosecution for perjury, which is a felony. So again, I don't expect the Biden DOJ to prosecute Anthony Fauci, but in a year's time, we might have we might elect a different president, and in which case we can expect some accountability. But right now, with the split Congress and the Biden administration in the White House, I think it's going to be hard to hold people like Francis Collins and Anthony Fauci and Peter Daszak accountable, even if they get, even if we can do something in the House. We're going to need the DOJ to take action to, lock up people who might have knowingly been involved in the causing a pandemic that's killed 25 million people.
I also know your organization is very concerned about experimentation on mammals, particularly cats and dogs. I'm going to give you a chance to tell me about that. And I'm curious what the alternative is that you're suggesting.
Yeah, thanks. So people who are not familiar with White Coat Waste Project, we're a government watchdog group, and we're specifically focused on the $20 billion a year that taxpayers are forced to pay for wasteful and cruel experiments on animals. About 100 million animals are experimented on in labs each year in the United States: dogs, cats, primates, bats, other animals. Cancer, where we're talking about the new NIH director, one of the reasons why I think we should have no faith in her as a leader, she's shown really bad judgment. Cancer is a great example of where 95% of drugs that pass animal tests, 95% specifically of cancer drugs that pass animal tests and are safe and effective, fail in human trials because either they're ineffective, they don't work, or they're actually toxic and dangerous to people, and in some cases kill them. And this is an incredible waste of taxpayer dollars, in addition to being incredibly cruel. I mean, these are experiments where dogs are being debarked, force-fed experimental drugs, burned, shot, blown up. I mean, the list goes on. So in terms of alternatives, there's technologies out there now that better predict human outcomes when testing for efficacy and toxicology with drugs. Things like the organs on a chip that were developed at Harvard University that are the size of your thumb, and they are miniaturized human organs, and you can model diseases in them and test the efficacy and safety of drugs in them. And comparative studies show that they're more accurate. They save time. They save years of wasteful research on animals that's usually a dead end and wrong. They're less expensive, and obviously they're more humane. And this is a great bipartisan issue. That's what's great about our organization is, we work with, the Freedom Caucus to the Squad and everyone in between on these issues. And it's really a way to unite folks on Capitol Hill and unite folks who on Main Street who are even divided about a lot of things in this country right now. This is something that's bringing people together, and we've been able to get a lot done to modernize research, prevent government waste, and prevent animal cruelty.
Is there a literature out there on these alternative experimental methodologies?
Yeah, extensive. I mean, it's not a new idea. I mean, you could go back to the 80s, and some of these technologies were starting to be developed back then, but they've really hit their stride now. Part of the problem is, government red tape. The private sector pharmaceutical companies are already relying on these technologies because they're more efficient. I mean, drug companies are interested in getting a product to the market as quick as possible. They don't care if they have to do animal testing or not. And in fact, they prefer not to because it's controversial and very expensive. And they're embracing these technologies that are more efficient. The problem is that there's bureaucrats at the FDA and these other agencies who've been looking at animal testing data for 30 years, and they're uncomfortable with any kind of new idea that might upset the apple cart, cost them a job, and upset a bureaucracy that's been in place for a long time. So a lot of the job we do is working to cut red tape. And, one of the things we did last year was working with Rand Paul to get rid of the 1938 law that forced drug companies to test on animals even when they didn't need to and they didn't want to. So now drug companies have more freedom to use whatever technologies they see fit to get safe and effective drugs to humans instead of poisoning puppies, which is literally the standard right now. They take hundreds of beagle puppies, they stick a tube down their throat, and they pump their stomachs full of massive doses of experimental drugs that are 10 or 100 times larger than a human would ever ingest, and actually tells you literally nothing about what a human response would be. It's just to check a box on a form for the FDA. And it's got to stop. Again, whether you're a liberty lover or an animal lover, this is something that unites a lot of people.
Are there any technologies that are sort of on the horizon that you're excited about?
Well, I think organs on a chip are kind of the cutting edge right now. And what they're trying to do right now, they have a lung on a chip, a liver on a chip, and they're developing one for each organ system. So eventually they can unite them and have a fully functioning, organ system, a fully functioning organ system that touches everything, and you could put a drug through there. Right now that hasn't been done. Our work is primarily focused on not only cutting the government's involvement in this. We're not an anti-animal testing organization. We believe the private sector should fund these things. If the Gates Foundation or pharmaceutical companies want to pay for this, let them have at it. But it's incredibly wasteful. It's incredibly expensive, and taxpayers who overwhelmingly oppose this shouldn't be forced to pay for it. And I can guarantee you that most of the wasteful experiments that the government is funding right now, no one in their right mind would pay for it unless they were being forced to do it. So I think, getting the government out of the animal testing business is really our goal.
Got it. I'm hearing kinds of exciting things about yeast and big data, and there's just all kinds of ideas out there flying around. And so this field is going to really change in the next 20 years, sort of on its own. So it's something very interesting to me. Is there anything else you guys are working on, Justin?
Well, going back to the beginning of our discussion, we're working right now on the NIH spending bill for 2024. And we've got a lot of important amendments in that bill to defund things like gain of function experimentation in the United States. This, supercharging viruses to make them more dangerous to humans. We're working on defunding that, cutting off EcoHealth Alliance. EcoHealth Alliance, despite probably causing COVID, has gotten $50 million in new grants and contracts just since the pandemic started. They're still going around the world hunting viruses and bringing them into laboratories and tinkering with them. We got to stop that. And we've got an amendment to defund dog testing and cat testing at the NIH. The dog and cat testing amendment is one of only 10 amendments out of over 300 that were submitted for the NIH spending bill that were actually bipartisan. So again, we're hopeful that some of these things will make it to the president's desk and get signed into law.
I don't want them tinkering with the virus, but I do want them monitoring the viruses. So I please don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, the problem is that what they're doing is going into remote places of the world where the humans basically never go, and they're taking viruses that exist in nature, which is inevitable that is going to happen, and they're bringing them into laboratories. And it's two sides of the same coin, whether you're doing biosurveillance or bioweapons development. And I don't think it's made clear that the United States has not been involved in bioweapons development, or that those things couldn't fall into the wrong hands.
Right.
And if you look at the history, the lab in Montana that was experimenting on Zubats recently, they have a history of bioweapons development for the DoD going back to the 1950s. And I think that's, one of the reasons people like Peter Daszak and Anthony Fauci have been so tight-lipped, is because I think their work might have touched that. I mean, as far back as 2002, Anthony Fauci was saying he had a top secret security clearance. Now, why would Anthony Fauci need a top secret security clearance unless he was involved with something like that?
Well, he was actually a part of the Department of Defense, right? I mean, he was a major administrator within that department from the science side. That was very odd. Yeah,
post 9/11, he was kind of deputized, and his division of the NIH was kind of created as a funded heavily all of a sudden as a kind of biodefense arm of the DoD within the NIH. And that's how we end up with these scary programs where you're shipping tax dollars to foreign countries with literally no oversight and hoping for the best.
Bureaucracy is just one tale of unintended consequence after another. It's just, especially when it comes to health, it just isn't the right kind of an organization for them. Well, listen, Justin, where would you like people to go to find out more?
At whitecoatwaste.org on all the social media platforms, and whitecoatwaste.org is our webpage. You can join our campaigns, get involved, take action, contact Congress, and help hold people like Anthony Fauci accountable.
Should we follow you somewhere?
Justin R. Goodman on Twitter. I'm on there every day, sharing news updates about our campaigns and stuff about lab leak COVID origins. So seems like it's not something you're interested in. If other folks are, follow me on there.
Great. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Wait. Susan has something for you.
And Brian wants to get his information because he wants to do...
Can you hear Susan, everybody?
He wants to talk to him about 11 labs doing active bat research in the States.
Who wants... Brian wants to talk to him? So Brian O'Shea, who I just spoke to you before, wants to get your information so we can talk about some of this material. It'd be interesting putting your two heads together. That'd be very interesting. So... What should you email you, Susan, or should just
on Twitter.
put them together?
Yeah, Emily can, or he could hit me up on
Okay.
Twitter, Justin R. Goodman. Justin@whitecoatwaste.org is my email address, and you can reach out to
Great.
me. And we actually have a story breaking tomorrow about how EcoHealth and Fauci's NIH division are trying to set up a new bat lab in the United States with bats shipped from Asia. So keep your eyes peeled on our social media at whitecoatwaste.org for that story.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Drew.
You got it. And Susan, I'm not sure if they hear you or not when you're talking. Is your mic on? They're hearing you? Okay. Emily's going to take care of that. She's going to put them together, of course. There you are. And this is our last day in Austin for a few weeks, and we thank the studios, the Sound Shed Studios, for helping us out in our hour of need.
Yeah,
They've been great.
yeah, this is working out. We're going to be back here again at the end of
No
November.
doubt. Get Susan up there. I'd rather look at her than me. Thank you very much. There you are. And so,
hi, everybody.
And so,
oh, there's a camera. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not good on camera. I'm just not in the mood. You know what I mean? It's not my thing. But this is my mic. This is how I turn it on. No, it's a beautiful studio. He's got a camera in every corner.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
getting ideas for our studio.
For those of you from your mom's house, this was well, he did a lot of the studios in Austin here, and Annie was the one that sent us to Matt, and we are grateful for that. And we'll be back in your new semi. Will it be all new when we start on Tuesday, or will it be just sort of mostly new?
Did I turn it off?
No, you're on. Now you're off.
Still on.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a new floor in our studio,
Yeah.
and we have some new angles, and we're going to be setting up some new cameras and lights, and we are going to the studio.
Oh, okay, that'll be fun.
And it should be nice coming along.
We occasionally get requests from people who want to be in studio, so we can take advantage of that now. So that'll be interesting. Watching on the restream, there's lots of you look great, Susan.
Might actually look a lot like this place. It's weird because I bought the same backdrops, and then we came in here and I went, oh, I have this backdrop.
There it is. And somebody just asked, did Justin really say Bat Lab in America? Tonetta said that. Yes, that is what he said. So we'll be looking for that story tomorrow. Let me see what you guys are doing over on the Rants and Rumble. We'll be out of here very soon. Shoot.
Yeah, he sent me a link to a rumble.com link for Words That Matter, a modern day book club. They think about a global bat lab. So head on over to Rumble. Words That Matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the isolated proof of the isolated virus Paxlovid? I don't know what you mean by that. How about the proof of the isolated virus Paxlovid? Don't know what that means. But my enthusiasm for Paxlovid is waning with the $1,300 price tag they put on it now. We're going to have to try other things first, because I'm not going to force patients. They just won't be able to pay that kind of money for the medicine. And there was an article just today where they interviewed multiple science and clinical leaders from around the country, around the world, actually. And certainly in this country, there is absolute complete consensus that the current variant of coronavirus, of COVID-19, is a cold. So the use of any of these things is sort of questionable. I mean, why would we be using two very powerful antivirals for a cold? So keep an eye on things. It appears to have morphed to that, variant that is, first of all, we're 3 variants away from the XBB.1.5, which is what the booster was designed for. So it's not at all clear that you'll be covered by this present booster. But you're taking something that causes a cold, and I don't usually treat colds with medication, or whether it's a vaccinating medication or a therapeutic medication, because the probability of hurting you is higher than the probability of the problem hurting you, the infection hurting you. I'm not talking just about COVID-19. I'm talking about any situation where an illness is mild and I start opening my prescription pad. I'm only like to hurt people because the illness is not going to hurt you. So it's funny. I say that all the time with patients that people get with normal hearts and young people. It's like, if I open my prescription pad and give you a medicine, that is more likely to harm you than the palpitations. Though, I will tell you that palpitations are kind of different these days in that a lot of people are having various kinds of rhythm disturbances associated with COVID and with the vaccine. So it's no longer the old days. In the old days, when somebody had palpitations, they were 25 years old, I would just, you don't have to worry about it. Don't stop it. I could reassure them completely. Now I have to do a big workup for myocarditis. Same thing is true of sudden death. When a young person died suddenly, throughout my career, I knew for sure 99 probability drug addict overdose. Now we're seeing a lot of other things. Now, I don't know if those other things are just being reported more often than not. It doesn't seem like it. We're going to talk to Ed Dowd. Is it the week after next? Caleb, if you could put up our schedule going forward here. I know Ed's...
Ooh, my favorite.
I know, as Susan loves having Ed Dowd.
I love
So
Ed Dowd.
Pascal will be in here on Tuesday. Okay. And that was for what day? Not confirmed. The following
Checking
Tuesday?
on it. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm double checking on it.
Pascal's in here at noon. Okay, on November 14th, which is Tuesday, we'll be here on noon with Pascal because he's calling from another country. Dr. Victory on the 15th, Michelle Bachman on the 16th. That's Thursday at normal time, 3 o'clock, to discuss the World Health Organization treaty and the ongoing struggle there. And do follow the show. Do check us out at drdrew.tv. Do please support people that support us. We appreciate it very much. And I was, Emily Barsh is going to tell you about Ed Dowd very quickly here. And please do follow, support the people that support us. We appreciate that very much. And
please, if you need a studio near Austin, we have the Sound Shed.
Yeah. December 6th now is Ed. December 6th, which is a couple weeks down the line. So it is not on the 21st.
Just a little tidbit of information. The guy that owns the studio helped Rogan build his studio. So
Joe Rogan?
He's famous. So if you need any help with your studio, he's the guy. Thank you, Matt.
I am want to talk about our friends at Paleo Valley and their Super Greens product. Super Green, raw greens, superfood powder. Check it out. Take that in the morning with your bone broth. These are great ways in which you get your day started in low calorie, highly dense, nutrient rich supplements. So check that out. Okay, so we will leave things here for now. And we will be back with you at Tuesday at noon, different time, and then back to our usual schedule.
Studio's back
we'll be
together.
back in California. Hopefully,
Come on, dear God.
Hopefully, Susan's studio will be back together, and we will see you then. Thank you for joining us. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help. There's a whole plexus of veins around the base of the anus there. And for some people, genetically, they're prone to these things getting sort of irritated and then swollen and then engorged, and then they can thrombose, they can get clots in them, and they do kind of go in and out depending on how inflamed they are.
They like come and go.
They can literally come and go completely, or they can kind of stay put, but sort of literally pop in and out.
But if it's a vein, you can't remove it, right?
You can. There are various procedures. Yeah, they actually go in there and just take it out. You can see that there's a clotting procedure they're doing there.
Can you keep it when they take it out?
No, it doesn't. I don't think they've ever done that.
I'd keep mine.
It's a little rough.